Hello, everyone, and welcome to your pre-work for your presentation skills program. You may be attending a presentation skills program for persuasion or for education or alignment or a general presentation skills program. Regardless, the next piece of pre-work will be fairly ubiquitous. I'm going to talk you through this. This is the 7 key variables. Before we begin looking at these one at a time, I want to just talk about some key principles. Most presentations are built to manage the fear of the presenter. We think about, goodness me, I've got that presentation in a couple of weeks. Oops, now I feel afraid. How will I make the fear go away? I'll build a slide deck and I'll read from that slide deck. And that'll be my safety net as I stand in front of my audience and present. What we want to do is begin thinking before we even prepare about our audience's needs. What can we do to serve them? How can we elevate them and their concerns higher than the concerns for ourselves? And when we do that, a wonderful thing happens. We manage nerves more effectively, we're clearer in our messaging, and we are more free and available in our own expression. We begin seeing more parts of our personality come into play that can serve us in creating a bond and a connection with the audience. Okay, let's look at these one by one. Outcome is what are you trying to achieve in your presentation? The precise clipped down expression of that in around about 10 words. And what is your audience trying to achieve from your presentation? Here at variable number 1, we want to encourage you to think explicitly about that. Imagine it like you've got a bow and arrow. You want to make sure you fire the arrow precisely at the target. What is the target you're trying to achieve? Number 2 is relationship. How do they feel about you at the start? And how do you want them to feel about you at the end? What is the incremental step forward in building relationship with that particular audience or stakeholder group? And we get you to explicitly define those two states, beginning and end. Character, this is you. What we want here is for you to think very clearly about what qualities will limit or diminish your chances of you achieving your outcome, and what qualities that you have will maximize your chances of getting your outcome. And we have a tool in place for that as well. Audience, this is them. Here we profile our audience. We think about role, direction, communication direction. What are their informational needs? What level of detail do they need? And how educated or how familiar are they with the topic that you'll be talking about? Circumstances. This is Glenn's favorite. This is a set of circumstances or considerations for circumstances surrounding that particular audience, challenges, etc. And I'll show you these in a minute one by one. Presentation type. There are a number of different forms of presentation, and we want you, as part of your 7 key variables, to identify very clearly which one you're speaking within and which one you're delivering within. And then lastly, at number 7, we'll talk about data and slides. Only then, please note, only then as the last consideration do we start thinking about slides. Once we have unpacked all of the considerations about our audience. Okay. And I'd dearly love to just take you through these one at a time. Outcome. Simply state your outcome and simply state your audience's outcome. That's all you're being asked to do. I would say see if you can limit each one of these to 10 words. Simple as that. Relationship, have a think about how do they currently think, feel about you or your company or your team at the start, and how do you want them to think about you, your team, or your department at the end. Again, simply state this, 5, 10 words at most. This is you. We'll have an activity around this in your workshop more than likely. Have a think about what qualities you do indeed possess. I want to repeat that. The qualities you do possess, not the qualities you would like to possess, that will aid you in increasing your chances of getting your outcome. You might be particularly warm or funny. You might be particularly up and across the product knowledge. You might have an excellent sense of friendliness when you communicate to a group of people. Whatever that is, make sure that you do indeed have it. It's not something you'd like to have. And what qualities do you actually have that will decrease your chances of success? All right. Now we look at our audience very closely. What is the role of your audience? Namely, what are their actual the title of their role? What is the function of that role in their organization? What communication direction do they have, up, sideways, or down? And their informational needs. So, what kinds of information are they actually interested in? What's useful to them to achieve their outcome? Level of detail preferred. How granular do you need to be? Is being too granular going to be a limit? Or do we need to stay up at a higher level? The purpose of that information, what will they do with it after your presentation? Will they make a decision? Will they inform a decision? Or will they create a strategy out of your information? How do they define value? This is a fairly nebulous question. What could you give them in your information or in your presentation that they would think is absolutely excellent and useful? And any other considerations? I want to direct your attention here as well to the level of knowledge on the topic you're presenting. Are they a novice, a generalist, management, expert, or executive? Have a think about that in your pre-work also. Here's the circumstances. What recent pressures are in place for your audience? What are their core drivers? What are any recent changes that they've experienced? Any wins? What known strategies are they implementing? And how will you use all of that above information in the design of your presentation? Now, often we get questions here at this particular variable. What if we don't know any of that? And I suppose for that matter, what if you don't know any of this up here? We always advise learners to have your best guess at this stuff. You know your marketplace, and any information that you've heard will go in here. You might not have information for every one of these fields, but even one or two is enough. Your best guess will serve you more effectively than not doing this thinking at all. So we want to encourage you to be brave, trust your understanding of that audience, and have a little go at seeing if you can fill out circumstances. All right. And especially pay attention to how will you use that information? What decisions will you make about your presentation now that you've been clear and mapped that out? Presentation type. We state that there are 4 categories of presentation: persuasion, education, planning, or alignment. Have a think about these. If you don't understand, we'll cover them in your workshop anyway, so you might want to skip that one. But if you do get a sense from their description here of what one you're particularly in, then have a go at seeing if you can identify what it is. And again, to be clear, for this, all you need to do is simply tick which one you think it is. And data. Notice now that only at number 7, we're going to consider slides. What role will slides or data play in your presentation? That itself is an interesting question. Are they a visual aid to back you up, or are they providing evidence? Is there going to need to be complex tables that they're going to need to look at? And if so, how will you indicate to those tables in a way that isn't confusing? We always say, don't compete with your slides. If the audience's attention is divided between the slide and you, then you have a challenge in your expression. All right. And then list the slides that you would like to include in order to support your outcome and any of the other key variable considerations you've made. Lastly, on this particular variable, it's wise to conclude that you might not know yet what slides to include, and you may need further information or learning. So there might be a framework or a model that we're going to give you in the training itself, that only then, once you have that and you've thought through that framework, will you be able to make that decision. All right. I welcome you to the presentation skills program, and I encourage you to have a think through your 7 key variables before that program. And I can't wait to work with you. Cheers. Have a lovely and safe day.